One crisis to another. Americans are suffering from crisis fatigue. Licensed professional counselor back with us, Melissa Caldwell-Engle, to tell us more about it. And Melissa, we are getting pretty sick of this thing, and I think the media, they love to fan the flames of all these things. Media things sometimes you think can't possibly be as bad as we make them out to be.
Yes, sir.
What do you think where are we going wrong here at this point of just telling people that you have to you don't just sit there worry?
Where are we going wrong? I missed the very beginning of that. Can you ask your question again?
Sure. Well, Americans are suffering from crisis fatigue. What is it? What sort of crises are we? I mean, it turns like the media wants to make everything into a crisis.
Oh, well, part of what's happening, I can tell you, because I've gone through this before with many national crises, whether it's 9/11 and different events that happen, is all of us tend to be so busy in our lives that anything from our past that is painful or where we have had some traumas or hurt, we as a society just kind of push things down and keep on trucking. I mean, we all hear things like pick yourself up by your bootstraps and keep on going. So when you have a society that teaches that, there's a lot of buried emotion. So when we have a lot of fears that get amplified or a lot of insecurities that get brought to the surface, what it tends to do is it wakes up all that stuff from the past that we've not dealt with. So you're not just dealing with the fears and insecurities that are being stirred up today by this ongoing pandemic and all the other associated crises that go along with that, but it's dredging up everybody's unresolved pain and fears and insecurities from the past, so it's amplified. And we're seeing a lot of people with just off-the-charts anxiety, paranoia, depression, PTSD can get reawoken and stirred up. So addictions, drinking, using, there's a lot of addictive patterns trying to cope with all of this because it's so overwhelming and it's so much, and it's in our face constantly.
Mm-hmm. Melissa Engle is with us, a licensed professional counselor about Americans suffering from crisis fatigue. And one of the things, I mean, you turn on the television, it's hard to miss the riots that are taking place, or the so-called peaceful demonstrations where they're burning down America and pulling down statues and everything else. It's hard to say that's not a crisis, but at the same time, you're dealing with crisis in your own lives, or the crisis that we talked about last week that we haven't recovered from.
Absolutely, and this stuff has a cumulative effect, and the hardest thing the most important thing we have to remember is the way we respond to this, the way we react. If we get too emotional and too reactive, we literally don't think as well. We're not going to make as good of decisions for ourselves. So as a culture and as a society, we're trying to remind people from the therapeutic community, be real careful what you put into your mind. And if you start getting to a point where you're feeling overwhelmed, shut it down, because you're not doing yourself or anybody else any favors by getting so reactive and worked up. It actually makes things worse for you mentally and physically. I mean, it's going to damage your body to be in that constant state of crisis. It keeps you in the fight or flight mode, and that is the breeding ground for all kinds of illnesses, physical and mental.
Yeah, you just can't be up all the time or on edge all the time and not have it take some sort of a toll on you. Melissa, what do we say to our kids who are watching this and frighten them?
I think it's a time to role model to our kids and to practice understanding what we have control over and what we don't, and learning how to live a life knowing we don't have control over everything. We control what we can. If you're a family that has faith and believes in prayer, I would teach my children to believe in something greater than themselves and to try to start learning other ways of self-soothing and regulating and not just overwhelming yourself. And if the parents are overwhelmed, the children will feel that and they will role model that, or they will act that out themselves.
Well, Melissa, what do you say? You were talking about Melissa Engle, licensed professional counselor in Dallas, near Dallas. Melissa, what do you suggest as far as how do people cope with this, and then at the same time pass that down to their children?
I think just be aware of when you yourself are starting to get stressed. I mean, it sounds so silly, but there's very basic techniques that regulate your body, and that's what we've got to do. So there's There's mindfulness. I would say be very mindful, deep breathing. Turn off the TV. If you start to notice your heart rate go up or your breathing getting shallow or you're feeling panic, that's your body signaling you that it's in overdrive. It's too much. So start becoming more aware and being more mindful. Do activities that are relaxing to your body because this energy stirs up our body whether you're aware of it or not.
Well, one of the things, Melissa, as we close it out, Rush Limbaugh even said this a couple of weeks ago when people were calling up, and he had to talk them off the ledge on several occasions about what was going wrong. And he said, turn off all news, turn off television for a week. Just don't watch anything, and see how that works.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I have one source that I go to that we talk about that researches this and spends her time researching this, and so I'll get weekly updates on what the pertinent, most important information is because I'm trying to work with people. I mean, at Healing Springs Ranch, we have people come in with addictions and they're struggling, and we cannot, as frontline workers, obviously get ourselves too wrapped up to the point that we're not helpful to our clientele. So I have one person I touch base with on a weekly basis, and if there's anything of urgency, she knows to reach out to me. So I have limited this for myself and my family so I can stay focused on what needs to be done and how to help people.
Melissa, we appreciate your time, and I love that name, Healing Springs Ranch. Sounds nice. It sounds like I'd like to take a vacation there for a month or two. Appreciate it.
I would.
Thanks, Melissa. Talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Good morning. Bye. Melissa Caldwell Engle, licensed professional counselor, Healing Springs Ranch is out there near Dallas.